Hashem, we're recording the Daf Yomi for Shabbos Kodesh, which is, Menachos Daf Mem Pas, Menachos 48. So we're going to start on the bottom of Mem Zayin on the base with the following question, with the following case. Tanur Rabbanan, the Brisa tells us too long turn the bottom of Mem Zayin on the base. Shachat Shnei Kvasim al Arba Chalos. If you slaughtered two sheep, but there were four loaves of bread there. So Moshe Shtayim Mehen, you could take two of the sheep, Umenifin, and you wave them. Vashar, and the rest of the sheep were on the top of the rest of the loaves of bread were on top of Memchesem and Aleph. Necholos bepijon. They can be eaten once they are redeemed. Amrua, and the Gemara is going to explain what this process is. Rashi is going to explain. Amrua Rabbanan Kamei Rav Chisda. This idea that you could redeem this idea that you can redeem two of them and then the other two you could eat was said in front of Rav Chisda, and Rav Chisda responded, "Ha deloka Rebbe." They said that this is not like Rebbe. The Rebbe, according to Rebbe, Kivan the Amar Shlita Mekadesh. Remember, so Rebbe's position is that the Shlita is what is Mekadesh the Lechem. The Parakul Hecha. Where would he redeem these two loaves of bread? Where would he redeem the bread? If he's going to redeem two loaves outside, it can't be. Those two loaves, Kivan Dirsiv Lifnei Hashem, if so will be Yotzi. Since it says Lifnei Hashem, then therefore once they are redeemed outside, they're outside the courtyard. And so therefore they're going to become disqualified. And igavai, and if he's going to redeem them inside, then when he redeems the two inside, meaning to say, when he redeems the two inside, then they become chulin. How does he do this redemption? He says basically Rashi says he does it on the Tanai. He said whichever loaves are the ones that are Kedusha Stamim are hereby deconsecrated onto the coins. So basically, the ones that are outside, the Kodesh ones, become disqualified, and the ones that are inside are chulin, and then it's chulin in the Azara, so that's a big problem. So Amul Rav Chisda Olam Karebi. No, it could be like Rebbe. Uparaku Gavai, and he could redeem it inside. And he's not bringing chulin into the Azara. Chulin memela kahaviim. The chulin is already there. Basically, it's coming on its own. He's not bringing it in, and so therefore he's not committing a sin. Amul Ravinu Ravashi Vatanya Kashu Podin ain't Podin al b'chutz. But we have a different price that says that he's supposed to redeem it outside. Well, that price or that second price says Avadai Rebbe Lezer Rebbe Shimon. That second price is certainly in the position of Rebbe Lezer Shimon, because if it was Rebbe, Hayivs will be Yotzi. So it's Rebbe Lezer Shimon who says that it's not consecrated until the sprinkling of the blood. The Gemara then says, "Amli Ravacha Brei the Rava Ravashi Reima Tehave Tiyufta to Rabbi Yochanan Miyah." Let's say that this brisa, which says you can redeem two of the four, is a refutation of Rabbi Yochanan. The Itmar, because we learned a statement. Let's say a carbon told that you're supposed to have 40 loaves of bread, but instead you slaughtered it on 80 loaves. Chizkiah Amar Kadshu Arba'im Mitoch Shmonim. He says 40 out of the 80 are sanctified. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Lo Kadshu Arba'im Mitoch Shmonim. He says 40 of these 80 loaves are not consecrated. So this case is exactly like the two loaves where there are four. So this is refuting the position of Rabbi Yochanan. And so we see from here, Rabbi Yochanan is not consistent with our brisa. The Gemara says, didn't we learn about that? Amar Rabbi Zera, Kol Mocha, Molim Echad Amar Likachu, Arba Mitoch Shmonim, Tikacha. So everybody would say that in a circumstance, even Rabbi Yochanan would say, if he said that 40 out of the 80 loaves become consecrated, then it would be okay. And Meaning to say, because then he clearly didn't want to be Mekadesh all 80. The only argument is in a case where he said nothing, that there were 80 loaves of bread and he didn't say anything. So then Chizkiah says that he intended the 40 as replacements, and so therefore, therefore 40 of them are sacred. And whereas Rabbi Yochanan said he intended to bring all 80, and that's invalid. So the Gemara says, and here he said, let 2 out of the 4 be consecrated. That's why Rabbi Yochanan is consistent with our brisa. Now we have the exact opposite case. Tani Rabbi Chanina Tirta Tameid Rabbi Yochanan. Let's say Shachar Arba Kvasin al Shtei Chalos. Let's say he slaughtered 4 sheep for 2 loaves of bread. So that's the exact opposite case. So what does he do then? Moshech Shnayim Mehen V'Zorik Daman Shelo Shman. He takes 2 of the sheep and he sprinkles their blood Shelo Shman for regular shlamim. Shimi Ata American, because if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to allow him to do that, Nivsadata as Achronim. You'll have lost the latter ones. So if the Kohen throws the blood of the first 2 lamb lishma, then he's discharged his obligation for Shavuos. The second 2 lambs are going to become offerings that were one time lishma and now are lo lishma, but that can't be because of the principle Rav Zera taught. So therefore, it won't help. So therefore, if the blood of the first 2 lambs is not thrown lishma, the meat of those lambs will be permitted because they were never nidche. That's what Rashi says. We say a person to commit a sin in order to gain, means to say it's a sin to do the shchita shelo lishma, and we're telling him to do that in order to gain. But is that really allowed? But didn't we learn in the Mishnah in Zevachim? Every chatas shenis arvu be'evri ola. Let's say if the limbs of the chatas got mixed up with the limbs of the ola, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Yinu Amala, the Kohanim could put all of them on top of the altar and say, Roani is besar chatas amala, ki'ilu eitzim. And he said, I can look at the chatas above as though it were wood. So basically, the Ivarim of the Chatas are supposed to be eaten, and it became mixed up with the Ola, so it can't be eaten or offered. So Rabbi Lezer says it's not a problem. He says that you can put it on the altar and view it as fuel. The Chachamim say they have to let it become disqualified and then burn it. Amai, but why the Chachamim say that you need to do that? Let him sin. Let him put the limbs of the chatas on the mizbeach, even though they're not able to be burnt there, in order to gain the benefit of not wasting the olah. Gemara says no. Amod v'chatei b'shvil b'chatas b'shel shetizke b'chatas amrinan. We say you could commit a sin with the chatas, so you benefit from the chatas. Amod v'chata b'chatas b'shvil shetizke b'olah lo amrinan. But we don't say sin with the chatas so that you can benefit from the olah. Do we allow you to say sin with the chatas so you can benefit from the chatas? But Tanya, we have a brisa. Let's say you have the sheep of the Shalmi Atzeres of the Shavuos that was slaughtered shelo lishman, or it was slaughtered too early, or la'achar zmanam, or after the time. Hadam yizarek, the blood is thrown, va'abasar yeyachal, and the meat is eaten. Because it becomes a regular shlamim. Vim ha'isa Shabbos, and if it was Shabbos, lo yizrok, he can't throw it. Vim zarak, hurtzalak, der imurim erev, and if he did sprinkle the blood, he could bring the imurim that night. Bamai, why? Why shouldn't we allow him? So why don't we tell him to do it then, and then you'll be able to eat the meat? So the Gemara says, "Amod v'chata b'Shabbos shetiske b'Shabbos amrinan. Amod v'chata b'Shabbos shetiske b'chol amrinan." Yeah, we allow him to sin so they can benefit on that Shabbos. Because you can't cook it till after Shabbos. Ubetarte mili lo amar, with respect to two things we don't say. Tanan, we were in Chavish al Truma. Let's say you have a barrel of Truma, Shenishbara Begata al Yona, that broke in the upper vat of a wine press. Uvetachtona chulin, and in the lower, it broke in the upper vat of a wine press, and in the bottom of it is tamein. In the bottom of it is chulin, that's tamei. They both agree that if you're able to save one revius in a state of tahara, yatzil, he should save one, even though the rest will become of the truma will go into the chun and it'll become ruined. But if you can't even save a revius, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Tereid v'titma, the truma should be allowed to go down in and become tamei, v'ayitman biyad, and he shouldn't do it with his own hand. Rabbi Yeshua Omer avitman biyad. Rabbi Yeshua says he can even capture it before it flows in. And so we see from here that we do say amod v'chateh b'shvil shetiske. Gemara says no. Shani asam d'otu makazo. That case is different because it's actually going to become tamei. It's going there anyway, so it's not a sin if he does with his hand. Kiyasa Rabbi Yitzchak Tani, when Rabbi Yitzchak came along, he said, "Kivsi etzer sheshachtan shalokim mitzvah." So once he slaughtered the sheep not properly, psuin, they're disqualified. Utuber tzurasan. Yotzel basis rifa. If you slaughter them improperly, they're disqualified, and you let them, they have to get burnt. Amrav Nachman Mar demakish lehu lechatos tani psuin. The one who compares them to a chatas teaches that they're invalid. Tan Bei Levi the Gamar Shame Chova Mishame Nedava Tanik Shem, but Tan Bei Levi who learned it out Shame Chova not from Chatas but from Shame Nedava, he says that they're kosher. Tani Levi Ushar Shame Nazir Sheshachta and Shalok Mitzvatan. The remaining Shame Nazir that were slaughtered improperly, Kisherin v'lo ba'am shem chova. He says that they're kosher. So the Gemara says, Meisvei, we have a problem with this. Asham ben Shana ve'evi ben Shtayim. A person was required to bring an Asham within his first year, and he brought one instead of its second year. Or ben Shtayim ve'evi ben Shana, or one in his second year, and he brought one that was 1 year old. Soon they're disqualified. Utuber to Rasam Yotel Beis Srifra. But an Ola Nazir v'Ola Silas Ola Mitzvah Shayu b'nei Shtayim Mishachatan. But in the case of an Ola, a Nazir, or a Yoledes, Kesherin, then it's going to be kosher. Kol shel davar, kol kosher ba'olas davar, kosher ba'olas chova. Whatever kosher by an olas davar is kosher by an olas chova. Kol apostle b'chatos, apostle ba'asham. So this kind, chutz mi shelo lishmot, the exception of shelo lishmot. So this contradicts Rabbi Yitzchak because it says that if a ola, which is obligatory, is brought when it's overage, it's valid. Well, Rabbi Yitzchak's price is saying it's invalid. So Gemara says, "Hi Tana, Tana Bei Levi." This Tana is the Tana of Bei Levi. Gemara says, "Tashma." The Tani Levi Asham Nazir Asham Mitzor Sheshachtan Shelo Lishma Ksher Mo'ol Ba'am Shem Chova. They're kosher, but they have not fulfilled their obligation. Shachtan Mechutzer Zman B'Ba'alim Psulin. If they're Mechutzer Zman, then it's disqualified. Or Shahayu B'nei Shtei Shanim U'Shachtan Psulin. Vim Isa Why don't we learn out from Shlomim? So the rest is Shlomim, Mishlamim, Gamar, Ashim, Mishlamim, Wol Gamar. You can learn out one Shlomim from other Shlomim, but not from Ashim. Vigamar Shlomim, Bishlamim, Wigmar Nami, Ashim, Ashim. Why don't we learn Ashim from Ashim? Ashim Nazir, Ashim Mitzorah, Ashim Zeros, Ashim Ilos. We can learn them out from each other. Ashim Zeros, Ashim Ilos, Ashim Nazir, Ashim Mitzorah. So I'm Rav Shimi. Dan and Davar Shalo Bechcher, Midavar Shalo Bechcher. We learned something that was improperly performed from something improperly performed. In done and Davar Shalo Bechcher, Midavar Shalo Bechcher. But we don't learn out something that was not done properly from something done properly. And then we're going to take that up on tomorrow's up. This is that up for Shabbos. Obviously, on Shabbos we'll go into it a lot more depth. Baruch Hashem. We'll stop here.